What, you live?
Yes, because we're doing dev stream.
Oh, it was just kind of sudden as all.
That is not the account I want to swap to. We do not use proper grammar with this, but you know what? I don't care.
Grammar? Who needs it? I'm sorry, Melvin. Putting the door over. Oh, I'm tired. Very, very, very tired.
Put me down. I'm very tired. Oy, 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 oy. Hooga chaka, hooga,
Ooh, some American asshole is live.
I can't stop this feeling deep inside of me.
Pain bot.
All I know is pain. Pain.
Pain.
Huh. Well, there is, to my knowledge, one thing we can show off real quick in terms of like new stuff. It's mostly related to Knuckles, but outside of that, there isn't much of anything else new to show off. So most of what we're going to be doing is tutorial stuff. Excuse me, I just woke up like an hour ago. Pain, Minecraft villager. Had. Good old Chuckles is gonna have a couple of new things, but we'll go over those quickly. I don't think there's a whole lot of new stuff outside of that. Let's see here. No. There are 3 things we can show off that's new, but one of the new things are related to what we're going to be talking about in the tutorial, so we will go over that last. Alrighty, how's it going, Tiger? Hope you're having a good day. So to go over what's new with good old Chuckles here. His combos have been modified and adjusted. Knuckles now has a new 3-hit combo, which is essentially the Knuckles heat. Whenever you do the 3rd punch and you hold the button, Knuckles will go into a heat mode. And depending on how long you hold it, you can attain an additional move. Nothing much, just working. I saw the stream notification. Oh, I see. I hope work is going well. The 3-hit combo will do new things depending on if you're hitting an enemy with it or not. So if I punch this enemy, I can launch forward like so, and whenever I let go, I'll do a little punch. But if you let go of the punch button at the proper timing, Knuckles will do a kick off the enemy and launch himself backwards. let me make clear, this ability is not finished, like at all. It's still pretty rough and kind of just in the in its beta stage more so than anything else. How the ability will function is going to stay the same, but a lot of the bouncing related, like how much distance you gain and how long you have to hold the button to get the combo and stuff like that, all that's still up in the air. So this here is mostly an ability that is good for like gaining horizontal distance, but you still have the option to like retrieve backwards if timed properly. And as you can see, the enemies that are kicked are also launching like a projectile. So if you kicked an enemy and that enemy flew into another enemy, it would act as a projectile. We just don't have any good we don't have any good way of showcasing it, is the main thing. If you let go of the button too early, you'll simply just do a punch attack and do a little extra damage. Like that there. Currently the punch attack will send enemies outward like a projectile, but we're thinking we're going to change it so they get sent up into the air instead. Just to act as a more easier setup for more attacks. So that's the main thing with Knuckles. That's the main thing that's been updated and changed. The only thing that we've really done that we can show you is the tracking on the warp rings is a little bit better. So the mirrored or the projected image on warp rings are a little bit more accurate. Can't really tell because of the processing required, so the stream's probably going to die a little bit. But kind of hard to see on stream, but it's working. I'll have to probably show it off some other time. But yeah. The frame rate just dropped badly. Yeah, I kind of figured as such. That always happens with the warp rings. The warp rings take a lot of extra processing power. So but just know that the tracking on them is a little better. This last thing is going to kind of just go into our tutorial area, or like the tutorial segment of the stream. But you can now have multiple buttons set to an active target. I'm gonna have to fix this one. Let's see here. Shit. Yeah, just as I thought, it's probably gonna have to be fixed. Let's see. Let's see if that fixes it. Yep. Okay, so here we go. 1, 2, and 3. There we go. You see? The gate required all 3 buttons to have been hit. And this works for all different types of button types. So these here are toggle buttons. So if I hit the toggle buttons, then I deactivate some. If I hit that one, and then I hit this one, and then I deactivate this one, and I hit this one, it's not going to work because it's going to want all of the switches to have been hit. But as soon as all of them are active, then it'll work. If I swap all of these buttons to a timer button instead, like so, it will require that I have all of them active in order for it to trigger. So if I hit this one, wait a little bit of time, hit this one, you'll see that one is deactivated, and if I hit this one, the gate's still not going to trigger because all 3 of them were not active at the same time. I have to hit all 3 of them in order to trigger the thing. So that is essentially all that there is for the new things that we are capable of showing off. We have done some other work on our Planet Wisp level, and of course Whisper has had some work done to her, but can't show those off yet. So instead we're going to be going over some more tutorial stuff. The two things we're going to be going over in the tutorial stuff today are button switches and events with the interfaces, as well as altering some basic information in the characters. Those are the two things that we are going to be going over. So the buttons. Oh, another quick thing we've done. Water volumes now have a button that you can press called Configure Speed Tracker. If I open up the water volume thing, you'll see that there's a speed tracker collision box right here. This is simply the collision box that you have to overlap with in order for it to start taking your friction up so you fall through the water. Simply pressing this button will properly expand the tracker out to the proper length. So you can set like the dimensions that you want of your water volume and then hit that button, and it should configure the water tracker trigger box for you, so that way you you'll not have to do it manually yourself is the main thing. All right, that was the other thing I forgot to mention. So buttons and triggers, they in Infinity Plus they use an interface system, which is a default functionality in Unreal Engine. If you have watched any of our tutorial streams, you might have noticed that I had mentioned the interface system previously. That is because the buttons, or the springs, the cannons, dash ramps, dash panels, dash rings, swing poles, all that stuff also uses an interface system. So an interface is a default Unreal functionality. It's also a coding functionality. It's not like exclusive to Unreal Engine, to my knowledge. But an interface is a system that allows you to pass information across multiple or different types of actors that share certain traits, or the information that shares traits. So let's open up an interface here. And let's go with the object interface. You can see that there is a list of interface functions right here. And if I open up the master character, and then I will also go ahead and open up like the springs here as well, you'll see that we have a spring function. If I double click this, you'll see a spring function. This is a function call with a bunch of variables being passed through to it. If I open up the spring, you will see spring interact. That is the same name for this function here. And if I open up the master character and I open up the object graph, I go to the spring interact, you can see event spring interact. So they act like function calls. You create what are essentially function calls inside of the interface, and then you give the function call a name, and then you can give a bunch of inputs and outputs. If you give outputs, then the function call will be treated like an actual function. If you only give inputs, it will simply just be acted like similarly to an event call. So if you know what custom events are, that's kind of how they work. You can give outputs. Giving outputs is a little bit more complicated and changes the functionality of it a little bit, but that's basically how it is. So if you look at the springs here, in order for an object to properly use functions and function calls, you have to go to class defaults and you have to add the interface into its interface list, like the list of functioning interface. And this here we have like The master character, we got a ring interface, object interface, a character object, a combat, and an enemy tracking interface. All these are different interfaces that connect to different actors, stuff like that. But the springs only have the object interface because springs don't have to interact with rings. They don't have to interact with enemy tracking stuff. They don't have to interact with stage objects. The only thing they are just regular objects. So they are, or I'm sorry, not character objects. So they are simply just a regular object interface. And all of these actors, or all of the functions in the interface, pass on similar information, like launch vectors and velocity, as well as some booleans, things like that. But in order for this to work, whenever you overlap with the actor, the component, so like, now the springs is a bad example because they don't show up on the thing for some reason. If I open up the dashing, you'll be able to see it in the viewport. If you overlap with like this trigger box right here, which is what's called right here, and it's the same thing with the springs, it's just you can't see it in the viewport. It checks what actor is being overlapped with and checks to see if it has that interface implemented. If it does, it will save that actor, so it can be any actor, just a general actor. So whether that is a player character, a vehicle, or an enemy, you could even set this up so that enemies could also interact with springs if you wanted. We don't have it set up that way because we don't want to take the time and effort into doing that, but the system is in place to be done if you want it to. And then essentially what it'll do is it will grab like a gravity pass-through, essentially, so that way the springs can accommodate for your gravity so they can launch you at the proper arc, assuming it's a pre-calculated one. And then it will take that actor and it will do what is called a interface message call. So if I pulled off here and I did spring enter a spring interact, there's message, but there's also different other kinds of spring interact, like spring interact like this one here. That's just a different function entirely. But you can see that there was spring interact message like so. You can see there's like a little envelope here that indicates that it's a message. And what that does is it calls this actor, which we know for a fact that this actor has an interface that is compatible because we checked it earlier, and then we save that actor. So this actor here is the same as this actor here, and then we call this message. And what this message does is it calls this event in that actor. So if the actor has this event in it, so for example, if I pulled up like the enemy blueprint, enemy AI, you can see that it doesn't have that interface. So if you gave it that interface and you gave it that event, it would call that event, but it does not. So if an enemy overlapped with it, it would be like, hey, does this enemy or does this actor have the interface? No, well, I'm not going to do anything. But if you added that interface to the enemy and then the enemy overlapped with the spring would be like, oh, does this enemy have, or does this actor have the interface? Yes. All right, I'm going to save that actor here, and then it will do the gravity pass through, which then you would have to pass back through from the enemy into the spring, and it would then call this function into the enemy, in which case you would do what you want to do from there. So that's essentially how they work. From there, you would just take the information that is passed through, like here, and do what you want with it. In this case, we're simply just launching the character. There's also this one here, the spring gravity pass-through, which that's what this function here is. Spring gravity pass-through, which checks, it ends your roll, and it does a couple other things. It sets your gravity back to null, so whatever gravity you had, in the event that you're using an ability that modifies your gravity, like the stomp or the bounce, it would reset your gravity and then pass the new gravity in back to the spring, which is what this is doing, and it would then the spring would launch you. But before it does, it would go into restricting your controls as well as stuff like that, deciding what to do from there, depending on the type of actor that's passed through. But that's how it works for springs and stuff. The button events do something similar. So whenever I open up, let me close all of these tabs. Or if I open up a button, and if I were to open up this character gate, you will see in its thing that it has the object and the button event. We have the button events, but I think we're going to be getting rid of that interface because we're going to just combine the buttons into the object interface. Yeah, we're currently checking for the object interface. We're going to check to see if the actor that you overlap with has the interface, which, I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to, but this essentially kind of keeps it from being activated by enemies and stuff like that. But how this basically functions is, if I'm going to, like, let's add a new one over here. Let's go to objects, global interactive objects. Let's do like a button barrier. Let's also do a character gate, and let's do a button. Buttons have an affected actor list, the basic button actor. So obviously there's a bunch of other settings here, such as the type, one-time use, toggle, or timer. Activation timer is only used if it's in timer mode. Ground button simply changes its type of button, whether it's a bobble button or a flat button like that. And there's also the ease activate interface. This is important. This here is the state that is passed on to linked actors. So if I want this gate to be deactivated by a button, I would simply tap the affected actors array, hit the eyedropper tool, and then select the actor that I want to do it. This eyedropper tool will, I think it'll select, will it select any enemies? Or any actor at all, or? Yeah, it can be used to select any actor at all, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it will do anything. If you attach it to any actor, you actually have to have the button event that is passed through to do something with it. So essentially, this button has now been paired with this gate. So if I were to play, and if I were to overlap this button here, you can see that it has deactivated the gate. That is because the gate, if I were to select the gate and I open it up, which it's already open, we have programmed it to do something upon interact. So assuming the multiple gate is off, or the multiple switches functionality is off, it'll simply go down here and it will change the state of the gate depending on this activated boolean that's passed through. So if this boolean is false, it will go through and set it to false. If it is true, it will go through and set it to true. Now, how do you dictate what this boolean says? Well, that is what this activate interface is all about. If I open up the button, let's see, this is one time, so I go down here. I'm gonna do once. You'll see what it will do is whenever you overlap with it, it will see what type it is. If it's a one time, it'll go down here. If it's a toggle, it'll go up here. If it's timer, it'll go over here. If it's a one time, it'll come down here. And it will like play its animation stuff depending on the mesh that it is, play a sound, set itself to active, set a bunch of stuff, and then it will go into this array actor, or this actor array, this list of actors. It will check to see if it has the button event interface implemented. So this is what I meant earlier, where you could technically connect any actor at all to a button. That doesn't mean that it will do anything if you do so. And then it will pass in the activate interface boolean. So this switch activated function That's what you see here, event switch activated. So it will get the actor in the array element, in this case, which is just a generic actor, and we call the message right here, which is then calling this event inside of the paired actor if it exists. In this case, it does. And it will then do what is connected to this event, which in this case is check to see what type of gate it is, and then move on from there. I'm gonna turn that on for now, just so I can showcase this later. This does not only work for buttons. If I were to, this also doesn't only work for gates. The goal ring also has the button interface functionality. So switch activated right here. This will set it to active or inactive. So if I were to play and I were to hop up here and I hit this enemy here, you can see the goal ring disappears. The goal ring is now inactive. It cannot be interacted with. However, if I hit this button, the goal ring has been reactivated. And then I can turn it off. I can turn it back on. Off. On. Off. On. So on and so forth. And then once it's in the active state, it can be interacted with like so. So the goal ring, so like as long as the actor has that interface and you have code set up to do something upon the interface being called, a button can be paired with it. Now you might be asking, well, how did you didn't hit the button in order to deactivate the goal ring? How did you deactivate the goal ring by killing the enemy? Well, that's because we have a separate actor called an enemy linker actor. This here is a function inside an actor that you can find in the enemy list called enemy linker. If I were to press this button and refresh lines, you can see that there are 2 lines coming out of the linker. Let me back this up. There is a yellow one going to an enemy and a blue one going to the actor that it affects. If you look down here, you can see there's a linked actors and there's an affected actors. The enemy or the actors listed under the affected actors array will be affected, while the linked actors in the linked actor array are the ones that it tracks. So this enemy linker can be paired to a group of enemies that, when defeated, will activate a button event. So if I were to copy this guy, this is just a regular enemy master. Oh, this is a regular enemy master AI. Okay, so let's copy this guy, paste, then paste again. And then if I attack these enemies, you'll notice I only killed one of them and it activated. That's because I didn't pair the other 2 enemies. So what I got to do is I got to add 2 new instances into the array, pair them, and like so, you'll see that it now has 3 enemies linked to it. And when I defeat all 3 enemies, it will activate the switch event. And you can also activate the switch event for multiple objects. So if I go back to the objects, object interact, and I pull out this button barrier, I'm just gonna scale it up, or not, never mind. Fuck that actor. We're just gonna pull this out. And then if I were to link a new target to it, like so, you can see that there are now 2 affected actors that will be affected upon all of the enemies being defeated. That did not work, but I think I know why that didn't work. It's because this was not properly set up. It also probably didn't work because of the event that was passed through. So you do have to pass in the specific type of event. Actually, why didn't that work? That's weird. Let me look in the enemy linker. Populate switch list event. Switch activated. Yeah, that should have worked. I'm not sure why I didn't. All right, I'll have to look into that one. Oh, is activate interface. Okay, that's why. So yeah, the boolean that gets passed through, if I were to press this, why is active not a thing? All right, I don't have a good way of showcasing this functionality. I'll delete that. Does this have a way? Active. Okay, yeah. This here should be a better example. If I were to destroy the enemies, this box should be inactive, but then yeah, now the box is active. So the state that gets connected to it, delete. The state that gets passed through is very important. You have to know what the it's a little bit complicated because you have to set the state that the object is currently in, and then you have to set what state gets passed into it. Unless you accommodate for that whenever the object is interacted with, which I believe I am doing with the goal ring. I think I have this set up in the goal ring. I could be wrong. In fact, I'm pretty sure I do. You'll have to make sure you accommodate for the Boolean logic. It's a little bit complicated, but when you understand how the Boolean logic works, you'll get used to it. So this switch is set to toggle. That means whenever I hit it, whenever it's in the on state, it will send the state, it'll send the opposite of whatever the state is, or the active state is. So if it's off, and the state is off, and I hit it, the button is now on, and the state that it's sent out is on. But if I hit it again, it is off, and the state that it's sent out is off. So if I press the button, you can see activated timer, or active interface. If I hit that, it will send the opposite of whatever this is. So if is activate interface negative, or if it's positive, whenever this is off and I hit it, it will be negative whenever it is active, and then whenever I deactivate it, it will be positive because it was negative. It's a little bit complicated, but essentially allows you to like send a toggled state on and off to actors. Similarly to the enemy linker, regular buttons can also have multiple actors connected to them. So if I were to go and hit this switch after I've connected an additional actor to it, it should activate both actors. Now they're both off, as you can see. Pretty self-explanatory. To explain how the other system works, save all real quick so it doesn't bug out. Requiring multiple triggers is as easy as hitting this button right here. Is require multiple switches. If that is turned on, the actor inside of it will start tracking a switch list. As you can see, this switch list is currently empty. You don't have to fill it out. I currently have this set as instance editable simply for debugging purpose, so you can see it. I will probably change that later. So what you can do, I'm going to go ahead and delete all of these here. With this on, like is require multiple switches on, I'm going to pair a switch to it, like so. And then if I select it, you can see it auto-populated a list of switches that are paired to it. So if I hit this here, pair another one, hit this here, pair another one, bam, and then I select this, you can see there are now 3 buttons paired to this character gate. And it's also got a state paired with them. That's the reason why I'm not planning on making this instance editable, so you don't mess with the states here, because you're gonna want to like make sure that these states are uniform. You don't want a bunch of states, you know. You don't want to accidentally mix and match the states, because that can get extremely confusing. My suggestion is try and keep your states as less confusing as possible. Keep it off if its default state is off. Keep it on if its default state is on. And things like that. So now that there are 3 switches paired to it, if I were to... Let me delete this here. And actually, let me just delete all of them and start over. If I were to pair only 2 of the buttons, and I leave this one here unpaired, you'll see that there are 2 buttons in the list. So whenever I go and I interact with the buttons here, if I hit this one, nothing's gonna happen because it's not paired to anything. But if I hit this one here, and then I hit this one here, then it will activate. Let me reset so you can see that you don't have to hit that 3rd button. Probably would have been more helpful if I said to a toggle. So if I hit this one here, and then I hit this one here, it'll activate the box, because it's only tracking those 2 switches. If I hit this one here, nothing's going to happen, because it's not paired to anything, and nothing is looking for it. So by adding the affected actor to the list here, you can see that it will then populate a 3rd actor. It will, if I open up the character gate here and you look through this here, you can see that the activated state is passed into the state inside of the map, or library as it's called. There's 2 different names for this type of variable. It's either called a map or a library. I'm not sure which one is the correct term. I've always called them maps, but library could also be a valid name for it. But essentially what it does is, if I were to go into the button here, and if there's any lists inside, or any actors inside its affected actor list, it will go through the entire affected actor list and it will populate the switch list. Which, if I open up the gate here, you can see there is a populate switch list. In which case, the affected, or the actor, in this case the switch actor, is passed through. You can see I'm passing the self through into this here. It will take the map and it will add a component to the array, and that component's key will be the passed through actor, and the default state is going to be off. So that is why whenever I look in this list here, these booleans are off. If I were to turn that on, it'll be true. Turn it back off, it'll be false. Pretty self-explanatory. However, what this looks for, every time a switch event is triggered, this array list here, the values which are paired to the keys, the values are going to be checked for their state. If at any point in time any of the values or the booleans here are false, it will say list failed, it will break the loop, it will move on, and it'll check, hey, has the list failed? Yes, the list has failed. All right, well, let's set list failed to false and let's discontinue. Let's not do anything. We'll break the execution. If all of the values come back as true, meaning this never gets fired, this is never true, it'll go, hey, this is false. All right, well, I'm going to set it to false again just for safekeeping, and then I'm going to move on down to the activate functionality. Well, how do you get the values set to false then, or set to true? They're all set by false by default. Well, whenever the button event is activated, it will then go through all of the keys inside of the array, which are the actors, the list of actors, and it will check to see if the passed through actor exists inside of the array. So if for whatever reason the pass through actor does not exist inside of the array, then there's an error. If it does exist, what it's going to do is it'll add, and essentially how maps work, if you add an actor to a map, but that actor already exists in the map, what it will do is it will override the previously existing entrance in the map list. So if this button exists in the map array, which it does, this is button 12, and as you can see, button 12 already exists in the list. What this will do is it will say, hey, or it's going to add one and say like, hey, I'm trying to add button 12 to the list. However, button 12 already exists, so I'm going to override that existing entry into the list with this new updated version of it with this new updated value. And the updated value that is passed through is what is passed through the activated list. So whenever you activate it, and this activated boolean that's passed through, that is the state sent to the array list. So that's why whenever I set these here to be a timer, so if I go to timer, what a timer does is it will pass in the state that you requested, but then once the time is up, it will then deactivate and pass in the opposite of it. I think I explained it wrong earlier. The state that it gets passed through the first time is not the opposite. It's just like what it is. Whenever the button event gets called for the first time, the state that is set here is what gets sent through the first time. And then for toggle and timers, if you toggle the switch, it's the opposite of what this is, because a switch cannot be in an on state by default. It has to be in an off state by default. So if I were to hit this switch, it passes an event into the barrier that says, hey, you're being activated. The barrier is going to say, oh, okay, I'm being activated. Well, I require multiple actors to be activated. Let's see, are you in my list? Yes, you are in my list. All right, I am going to repopulate my list and overwrite your position, and I am going to change the value in it. And the value is whatever the value that switch passed in, which in this case is true, because we have it set. We have the activation state set to true. It goes, all right, your entry is now U plus true. However, whenever a timer or a toggle is sent through, like you could see earlier, I hit it, and then some time passed, and it deactivated itself. That's because whenever it deactivates, it passes in another event, this time the opposite of what it sent earlier. So if it initially sent true, like if I hit this, it goes to the gate and it sends a true to the gate. But then when it deactivates, it sends another message to the gate, but this time it says false. So the gate, so whenever the button deactivated, it says, hey, I'm sending an event to you. Here's the state of the event that I'm sending to you. The gate goes, all right, let's see if you're in the list. Yes, you are in the list. Let me repopulate the list with you in it, but this time with the new state. This time it's false. So that's why whenever you have a timer or a toggle switch, you have to make sure they are all active at the same time in order for it to go through. And once the gate has been activated, it won't deactivate like so. We don't have that functionality set up for multiple switch events. Maybe we can set that up in the future. I don't know. I don't know if I'll get that done before this update is out. We'll see. Which, by the way, this multi-switch functionality will exist in the next update. It does not currently exist in Colorful Combat. All of this other stuff that I'm talking about, the activation and the deactivation state, all of that does exist in Colorful Combat. It's just the multi-switch requirements that does not exist. There are also a couple other actors that have this affected or have this system. We already talked about the buttons, and we did go ahead and talk about the enemy linker, but there is another one called the enemy spawner. The enemy spawner is an actor, which I will go into more detail later. The enemy spawner is an actor that spawns in enemies in waves based on what you want. But it can also trigger actors as well. So you can see here, there's like a triggered actor, this button barrier 3, which is what this one here is. So there are multiple different types of actors that you can set up to act as a button event or a trigger to cause things to happen. Another individual actor actually that can call button events are actually egg flappers. I didn't set this up. This is actually Reese that set this up. But egg flappers also have the ability to interact with actors. Button ref. What is this button? Okay. I'm gonna have to change this. This is kind of a weird workaround to it. But it looks like how it reset it up. Egg flappers pair with a button, and then the button calls the event. Which, I mean, that's a one way to do it. That's not an incorrect way to do it. It's a little roundabout, but you know what? All right, that functions. It works. So the way that we currently have it set up with egg flappers, if I do change it, it probably will not be in this update. It'll probably be in the next update. In order to get an egg flapper to interact with the button, interact with switches and stuff like that, you actually have to pair an egg flapper with a button instead of a gate. And you have the button paired with those gates, and you simply just pair the egg flapper to the button. I'm pretty sure that functionality exists in Colorful Combat. So in this instance, if I were to go up here, and if I were to get caught by the searchlight, all the enemies activate, and you can see the button barriers have been activated, so I cannot pass through. And I believe it also pairs with, yeah, the enemy spawner, so you can also set up the egg flapper to be paired to the spawner, which this here is the spawner right here. It can be activated. It uses the same system by triggering actors, similarly to like button events and stuff like that. But it can be paired with an actor to activate it. So there are two different ways to activate it. A spawner, it can either be activated through a button event, or it can be activated by overlapping with this activation, which this circle collision right here, this sphere collision, that is its activation radius. The two different ways you can trigger a spawner is either by overlapping with that. If I were to go into this room here, and if I were to fly up onto this platform, actually no, this one's also activated by a thing. All right, we don't have an example set up, and I don't want to take the time to set up an example because that would take too long. But you can spawn enemies by overlapping with a spawner, like a spawner trigger. And in doing so, it would activate the list of enemies. But you can also do so by pairing the spawner up with an egg flapper. And we'll go into spawners and stuff like that in more detail later on, whenever we talk about enemies, which is not what we're going to be doing in today's stream. But that's one thing I definitely wanted to get out there was the interface system and how interfaces work. Because buttons and triggers and activation events and stuff like that, that is an integral part to designing levels and level design and stuff like that. And we do have that functionality implemented into Infinity Plus, and it's even in the Colorful Combat update. We've just never really discussed how it functions. For the most part, if I remember correctly, I think in Colorful Combat, everything that I have discussed is all inside of Colorful Combat. All except for the requiring multiple actors thing. Except for that does not exist in Colorful Combat. But to my knowledge, all of the other functionality exists. The only thing it may not exist is it may not be like an affected actor array. It may just be a single actor. And if that is the case, let me know in the Discord, and I will show you how to set it up the other way. Because honestly, it's super easy. But it just does require a little bit of time. Real quick, I'm gonna go and grab my food because it's sitting outside and it's been sitting outside for like 20 minutes. So I'm going to go grab it real quick so I can have a drink. Give me one moment. All right, sorry about that. Drink obtained. I have my food now. How's it going, Jim? Hope you're having a good day. I am doing all right. A little tired. Not been up for very long, but I am good. Let's see. So we just went over the button events. Doing good. That's good to hear. That is essentially all that there is to know about buttons. I guess to really quickly go over the barriers and stuff like that. Let's see here. We have two different types of barriers. We have button barriers, and we have character gates. Button barriers, they basically say like serve the exact same purpose. There's not really a difference between them. Outside of the fact that the button barrier or the character gate has additional functionality that the button barrier does not have. So in reality, like, we don't really need both actors, but if you don't want to mess with the complicated systems of a character gate, you could just use a button barrier. But we also might just get rid of the button barrier. I don't know. I have to talk to Reese, see if there's any functionality the button barrier has that I'm aware of that the character gate does not. But the button barrier essentially can be either active or inactive on startup. I'm not sure what one way is supposed to do. What is one way? Okay, I think one way simply means that it can only be activated once. So if you activate or deactivate a button, like if you have a toggle button and the toggle button sends an event to the gate, the state passed into the gate will dictate what state the gate is in. So if it's, you pass in a positive state, the gate will be in a positive state, meaning it will be on. If you send a negative state in, it'll be negative, it'll be off. I think one way means that it can only be activated once. So once it has received its very first input, it will not receive any more input, I think. Could be wrong. I have to double check with Reese on that. But the character gate has some additional functionality. I have discussed this before in the past, however, we're going to be going over it again. The character gate can do one of three things. If I pull out the character gate right here, a character gate can either block a character of a type, it can allow a character of a type, or it can just block all characters. So by default, if you can see, there's like the required multi-switch, which we've gone over. There's the scale thing, which the box extent, that's a different thing. You'll not really have to mess with it. There's these three variables right here. There's block all, allow one type, and character type. With all of these off, like if these two are off, the character gate will block whatever the character type variable is set to. So there's speed, power, and flight. Is allow one type, that is off. Character gate is set to speed. I'm Shadow, who is a speed character. If I try to walk up to it, it's going to block me. This means that it will not allow any speed type characters through. If I were to swap to Tails and I were to walk through, it'll allow Tails through just fine because Tails is a flight character. He is not a speed character. If I were to exit and I were to change it to like flight, and then I were to walk through, Shadow can go through just fine because Shadow's a speed type character. If I were to swap to Tails, it's gonna block Tails. Tails can't go through because it's blocking flight type characters. If I were to swap back to speed and I were to say allow one type, this essentially flips the functionality of the character type. Instead of it blocking the character type, it will only allow that character type. So there's the three types, speed, flight, and power. If allow one type is false, it will block that specific type. It will block speed, or it will block flight, or it will block power. It will only block one of them. It will allow all the others through. So if you have speed active, it will allow flight type characters through, and it will allow power type characters through. If you have only allow one type, it will only allow one of the three types. So if I set it to speed, that means it will only let speed through. It will not let flight characters through, and it will not let power characters through. So if I set it to allow one type, you can see it will allow Shadow through, but it will not allow Tails through now because it's been changed. It will only allow one type of character. The third functionality is block all, which you can see whenever you turn that on, it will turn gray. That means no matter what type you have this set to, these two variables are now like inactive. They don't really do anything. That is because it will simply block all types of characters, no matter what type you are. I'm afraid if I hit it again, it'll be Whisper. Yes, it was Whisper. All right. There's your peek at Whisper. That's the only peek you get. So that's the basic functionality of the character gate. They're pretty simple. They're not like super complicated or anything like that. Let's see here. There's also silver objects, which we could go into, but I think we'll save that for like a separate silver stream. Like it's just a stream discussing silver stuff, which we could do. That could be the next one. The next stream could be a silver themed stream. We can discuss silver next because silver is a very unique character. I think in terms of button events and triggers and stuff like that, that's about it. There isn't much else we can talk about. We're planning on having a button event attached to... Actually, no. They already have the functionality. If you set active to false on warp rings, they can be deactivated, meaning they won't activate whenever you walk up to them. Versus if you send like a button event to them, then they can activate and stuff like that. That's about it when it comes to Switch events. I know I talked like for almost an entire hour talking about them, but there's a lot to go over. There's kind of a reason why I wanted to dedicate an entire tutorial stream just to them. Or like not an entire one, but like half an entire tutorial stream just to them, because there's a lot to go over with them. So that's about it for that. The next thing I wanted to go over was changing properties inside of a character. We're moving on to a different subject now. Changing properties inside of the character, which we kind of dabbled on this a little bit before, but I wanted to go over more about it. I wanted to go into more detailed things because people have been asking about this stuff all the time. So if I were to open up the speed parent and the master character, we'll be able to see how some of this stuff works. Where am I? This is the shoulder graph. I want the action graph. The action graph right here. So there are a couple of different ways that you can change the properties of the characters that you have. And by change the properties, I mostly mean like, you know, changing the properties of their abilities or changing which abilities they have and things like that. So inside of the speed character, we have a structure called character ability enabled, which I will probably be renaming to like speed character enabled. Not sure. This here is a list of abilities that can be used by the character. That does not mean that these are abilities that are currently active. Let's make this very, very clear. There is a difference between character's ability enabled and character's ability active. So we have the stomp enabled and we have the bounce enabled. Both of these abilities are enabled, meaning I can do them. However, if I press the button, I'm only going to be doing a stomp. That is because this stomp is the ability that is active. Currently, right now, in the Colorful Combat update, we're going to be changing this, by the way. We are not going to be keeping the system as I'm about to show it. So do not expect this to say the same way. However, I'm going to show you how to do it this way. Anyway, let's see here. Character setup. So where is it? This is, by the way, specifically for, okay, so selected character related. Stomp over bounce. If you want to swap whether or not a speed character has bounce or you want the stomp. If this is on, it will be the stomp. If it is off, it will be the bounce. That is in the character instance. We are not going to keep it there. I know it's a really weird spot. I don't want to hear like, oh, this shouldn't be there and stuff. We know it's not going to stay there. We're going to be moving it. So if I use the ability now, you can see it's going to be the bounce. So if you want to change between the stomp and the bounce, you go into the character instance, just hit class defaults, character related, character setup, turn that off. This is also how you change other abilities, such as the double jump, air dash, and drop dash. If I hit air dash, compile, and I do a mid-air jump, it is now going to be the air dash instead of the double jump. Same thing with the drop dash. There's also the trigger wall slide. I'll change that here as well. I don't know how the drop dash works. The drop dash I think might be bugged. Didn't want to do that. Yep. There we go. So there's the drop dash. And then as for the wall jump thing, if you don't like, I've discussed this before in the past, the wall sliding ability is on the left trigger or left mouse button, or might be right trigger, I don't remember. What you would do is you'll hold the trigger and you'll jump out a wall to slide across it. With that 1 boolean off that I turned off, instead of that, all you gotta do is jump against a wall instead. So you don't press any buttons at all. Is you instead simply just jump out the wall and you will begin to slide across it. You do have to press into the wall unless you are wall jumping. If you're wall jumping, then you will just... if you're wall jumping, you'll automatically attach to the next wall you jump to. However, if I simply jump out the wall like so, I will not slide across it. I have to physically be pressing the character into the wall in order to slide across it. So like so. This does get a little finicky, obviously, at certain angles, which is why it's off by default. And it also confuses a lot of people. People, like back whenever we had the Seagate stage set up, or Seagate stage, you know, released, we had that set as an option in the menus. That is not going to be the case anymore. We're going to be setting all that information in the character. It's not, I don't know if it'll be in this update. It might be in the next update whenever we do all this stuff. But we noticed a lot of people were confused about how the wall jump worked back whenever it was set to the press against the wall by default. Yeah, sometimes that happens too. Sometimes it doesn't properly attach you to the wall. So if you don't like the idea that you have to hold the button, press that button or turn that on instead. So the trigger wall slide basically means you have to hold a trigger button to trigger the wall slide. So if I jump at the wall, nothing's going to happen. I'm going to fall down because I hit the thing over there. However, if I press the trigger, I'm going to do a wall jump. Personally, I prefer it on trigger, but you may not. So here, I'm holding the jump, or holding the trigger button or the mouse button to wall slide. I'm not pressing any directional buttons, I'm simply just holding the trigger button. That's all I'm doing. There's also the hero, standard, and momentum homing attack. I don't think these do anything anymore. I could be wrong. I'm pretty sure that these all have been changed, maybe. Yeah. That is because this functionality has been moved and its properties have been changed. However, we're probably going to be reintroducing it. So that if you have advanced combat disabled, like those three's functionality, the standard homing attack, the hero's homing attack, and the momentum homing attack, all that functionality is integrated into the into the advanced combat. However, if you have advanced combat disabled, we're probably going to change it so that we use that instead. I'll have to talk to Emmanuel about it. It shouldn't be super difficult to set up, but that is how you change those things. Like if you want to change a character's jump type, if you want to change the bounce, if you want to change the wall jump, things like that, that's where you do it. It's in the character, it's in the instance blueprint. It's not going to stay that way in the future. We're going to move it to the speed parent. Like if you want to change which abilities you want, then you'll do it there. You'll do it in the blueprint of the parent or of the individual child that you want. So currently right now, if I had stomp disabled, like if I do that, if I set stomp to disabled, compile, and then I played, and I try to stomp, it's not going to do anything because the ability has been disabled. If we turn it back on, it'll work. If I hit the boost enabled, I compile. Not only will the boost be disabled, but all of the UI elements should disappear as well. Though it doesn't. All right. It's not that way because we've not set up the boost stuff properly. That'll eventually, if you disable boost enabled, like if you turn that off, all of the boost related UI assets are going to go away as well. So like drift, rolling, bounce, stuff like that. The rolling is not going to be there. That's going to be a parent thing. But if you want to change which abilities are enabled or disabled, that's what you would do it. Inside of the speed parent, you would go to like character ability enabled, change that stuff. That is how you enable and disable. If you want to change which abilities are active, you would go over to the instance, because there are some abilities that overlap. Like the bounce and the stomp, they overlap. The different types of homing attacks, things like that. This is how you enable or disable them if you want to change the abilities that the characters have. If you want to change the individual abilities, like how we have discussed in the past many times, like say you want Sonic to have the double jump, or not the double, like you want Sonic to have the boost, but you don't want Shadow to have the boost, you would open up Sonic's blueprint, and you would go into the class defaults, and you would type in up here, character ability enabled. You would make sure it's on in Sonic's blueprint, and you would go over to Shadow's blueprint in Team Dark, Shadow, DP Shadow, class defaults, character ability enabled. You would simply turn it off here. So that means in Shadow, it would be disabled. In Sonic, it would be enabled. It would be turned on. So if I turn it off here, compiled, you can see in Shadow's blueprint, it is off. In Sonic's blueprint, it is on. So whenever I play a Shadow, I cannot boost. I've disabled the ability to boost. However, if I was playing a Sonic, I could boost because it's on in Sonic's blueprint, it's off in Shadow's blueprint. So whenever it comes to like speed character abilities, if you want to activate the bounce or the stomp, if you want to activate the quick step or the light speed dash, or deactivate those abilities, if you want to do the drift or the wall jump, things like that, if you want to enable or disable those abilities, you would go into the speed parent and change them here. I think this structure exists in the master character, but it really shouldn't. So we're gonna have to change that. It probably will not be changed by the next update. It'll probably be the update after. We will see. Let's see here. So there's also a couple other abilities. What? Oh, this is a rolling code. A couple other things in like properties that you're gonna want to know how to change. Let's go to the action graph. That's the top button, the bottom button. All right. So let's see here. There's the ground jump. This is the ground jump that every character uses. I'll put up the ground jump function right here, and you can see master jump strength. This is the strength of the jump that your character will be using. You don't have to go here all the way here to like change this variable. What you can do is you can either go to the class defaults. Like if I'm in the speed parent, I'm going to go to class defaults, and I'm going to go to master jump. If I just hit master J, it'll go master jump strength. All speed characters have a jump strength of 1450. I can just also go over here and go to master jump strength 1450. That is how it is for everyone. I think, unless this has been overridden, it might be overridden. If I go to Knuckles, I go to class defaults and I go master J. Yeah, Knuckles, to keep true with Sonic 3 and Knuckles, as well as Sonic 2 and Knuckles, with Knuckles playing in that. Knuckles has a slightly shorter jump height than all other characters. So the default is 1450. For Knuckles, it's 1350. So if I were to play, and I'm gonna like jump up against this wall, we're gonna use the background cubes as reference. If I were to jump, you can see Shadow jumps roughly 3 cubes high. So that is 3 cubes high for Shadow. If I were to swap to Knuckles and I were to jump, you can see Knuckles jumps more like 2.5 cubes high. As you can see here. So Knuckles' jump is slightly nerfed compared to other characters. If you want to change it, it's not difficult. You just open up Knuckles, go to class defaults, type in master space J for jump. It'll pull up master jump, and you simply just press that button. Bam. Knuckles has the same jump height as every other character now. It's not a difficult change. It's not a difficult fix. I just like to have it in there because it stays true to like Knuckles' character in the classic games. Knuckles has a slightly shorter jump height than all the other characters does. If you want to change it, it's not difficult. Just open up Knuckles, go to class defaults, master space J, change the jump strength. I think the double jump is also in the master. No, it is not. Okay. So for the character's double jump strength, yeah. The double jump is a speed character exclusive ability. So you would go into the speed parent, head over to your variable or your list here, type in dub. It'll go to speed double jump strength, and you can just change that here. It's 11, 15. If you change it up or down, it'll be weaker or stronger, stuff like that. That it changes the strength of the double jump. I would show it to you, but I don't want to because it's spoilery stuff. But based on this here, the regular ground jump gets you about 3 blocks high. The regular ground jump with the double jump gets you about 2 extra blocks. So background squares, as you can see, like a background block. What's up, Fizz? How you doing today, Junkie? I hope you're having a good day. If you want to change the double jump, you change that, and the strength of that will change the strength of the double jump. As you can see, Shadow just barely, like, doesn't quite reach that 5th square. Regular jump is about 3 squares. Double jump is just under 2 squares. So it's a square and like 5/6, if that makes sense. I'm not going to show it, but just to know, Whisper has a higher base jump. So while a regular speed character can jump about 3 blocks high, Whisper can jump about 3.5 blocks high. Whisper has the highest base jump of any character. But Whisper has a nerfed double jump. Whisper doesn't hardly gain any height out of a double jump. Her double jump acts more like a stall in midair. So her double jump strength is much weaker than most other characters. However, her base jump strength is much stronger. So Whisper kind of has like a more of an adventure style jump. She doesn't have the same gravity as Adventure. She has the same gravity as everyone else. She has a pretty weak or pretty strong gravity, so she doesn't stay in the air for very long. But she does jump a bit higher than other characters. So if you think about like Sonic Adventure 1, how high Sonic can jump in Adventure 1, Whisper is a little bit more like that versus how Sonic jumps by default here in Infinity Plus. But her double jump is much weaker. She doesn't have as strong of a double jump. With a speed character's double jump, you can actually gain extra height. But with Whispers, you don't gain any extra height. You basically just stall yourself in the air a little bit longer. How's it going, Michael? Hope you're having a good day. So that's how you change some of the other basic functions, such as like jump height, jump strength, double jump height, as well as like the air dash. You can also, I don't know if this is in just regular streaming. Oh, I see. Okay, air dash speed. You can also change the strength of the air dash. Simply just inside the speed character, type in air DA for air dash. Air dash power speed. And then you type in what you want. Currently it's 2550. I think drop dash also might, like drop dash strength. No, it isn't. All right, we'll probably make it a editable variable. You heard Whisper? Yeah, I mentioned Whisper. Mostly just to act as an example. We were just discussing the jump strength. If I were to type in jump strength, we can see master underscores jump strength. Default jump strength is 1450. If I type in Knuckles, go to Knuckles, class defaults, master space J. Knuckles has a shorter jump strength than all of the characters. If you want to change it, it's easy. You just open up BP underscore Knuckles, class defaults, type in master space J, go to master jump strength, and hit this little arrow and compile. That's all you got to do if you don't like Knuckles having a shorter jump than all the other characters. If you don't like that, it's not the end of the world. It's a super easy change. I simply changed it because Knuckles has a shorter jump height in the classic games. He does not jump as high as Sonic or Tails does in the classic trilogy. It's just a little quirk that makes him different from other characters. So it's a quirk that I implemented in here because I thought it was just an interesting little thing. It doesn't make Knuckles a weaker character, in my opinion. His ability to climb walls kind of counteracts this weaker jump strength. But it's kind of just my opinion. We do have zip lines. We've went over the zip lines in the past in another stream. So if you want to know how to use zip lines, you'll have to look at the other streams. Although zip lines are not in Colorful Combat Update, they will be in this next update. So zip lines are not available right now, but they will be. So are pulleys. We also have pulleys as well. Pulleys are also a thing. Increase the scale of the mesh there, make it a little thicker. Is this update the last update? No. This will be the second to last update. The update after this one will be the last update. However, the final update, the 1.0 update, will not have new content in it. It's mostly just going to be cleanup, patches. Well, it might have new content. If it has new content, it will have very little new content. It'll mostly just be like patching up things, cleaning things up, fixing minor bugs that people have discovered, stuff like that. As well as any major bugs and stuff like that, any major issues people find. That's the 1.0 update will mostly consist of that. We might have a few new things added here and there, but most of it's just going to be prettying up the framework. That's what the 1.0 update is going to be. Did you pick the surprise new character yet? Nope. The poll for that will probably go live once we get this next update out. So when this update goes out, like the update that we're working on right now, when it goes live, I will probably have a... Actually, I actually already have it set up. I have the poll set up. I just haven't released it yet. We will have a poll release that people will be able to vote for the new character. Random Sonic fact. I'm gonna give those points back to you, Michael. We don't do the redeems during dev streams. We don't do the stream redeems during dev streams. I will decline it and you'll get your points back though, so don't worry. Is Amy in the pool? Yes, Amy is in the pool. All of the main like game-related Sonic characters are in the pool. There are two lists. There are the there's a character you want the most, and then we also have a character you want second. And what we're gonna do is, like, we're gonna take your most wanted character and your second most wanted character, and we'll like get the medium of all of them. We'll get the averages of all of them, and then we will include it into another poll that people will then do, or then use, or vote on, and from there we will decide the final character. I'm going to grab my food, because it's been sitting here, and I am hungry. I have not eaten yet today, and my food's probably already cold. Is Rouge be similar to Knuckles, like the same BP? Rouge is not a character. Rouge is in the list. If people want Rouge added, she will be in the list, and people will have to vote for Rouge. We are not including Rouge by default. The only two other characters we're going to be adding are Honey and Mighty, plus the bonus character that people will vote for. If you want to play. Where can I vote? The vote isn't out yet. I just said a little bit ago. The poll will be open whenever this update goes live. What's the release date for this update? We're hoping... Initially, I wanted it at the end of this month, but it's looking to be closer to the end of next month. There's a couple of things we're waiting on before we can, like, really get this update ready to be released. But those things are being worked on, and hopefully they won't take too much longer. But once those things are done, we will be able to patch up the things that we are waiting to patch up on. And we also want to finish Planet Wisp, which I have recently obtained a second wind of like creative strength, so like creative willpower, if you know what I mean. So I will be able to work on Planet Wisp. Yes, we are working on a new map. I've shown a few teasers here and there. If you follow the I Plus Discord, you'll have seen a couple of teasers. One thing to get back to the little tutorial section real quick. If you don't want your characters to have advanced combat, open up the main character blueprint, the master character. Go to your list here and go advanced, like type ADV for advanced. master underscore is advanced combat on. Click that and disable it if you don't want your advanced combat. If you just want the basic platforming, you don't want any of the like the homing attack modifier abilities. If you like, you don't want the like the bombs for flight characters. If you don't want the charge abilities or the overheat abilities for power characters. If you don't want any of that, simply just hit advanced combat and turn it off. If you want it for the individual parents, you can do that here. Just go to here, class defaults, type in master is advanced combat. Turn it off for the individual parents that you don't want it for. I haven't been that much. It's fine. What channel is Planet Wispin? I've posted the teasers into the update channel. It's all listed in the updates channel. Let's see here. As for other character related like property changes, if you want to change the properties of the individual abilities, you'll have to go to the parent that those abilities exist in. So for like the stomp, boost, things like that, what you'll do is you'll go into here and you will select the structures. So for the speed parent, if I want to change any of the boost properties, I would go to the variables here, go to boost status speed, and you can see all of the different variables that are used, like the maximum energy you can have, your total energy, which by default you start out with 100, the decay rate, boost drain, which is the initial drain whenever you activate the boost, boost deactivation timer, which if you don't want to change that because that is the timer that deactivates the boost once you hit the minimum required speed to be boosting. Boost speed growth rate, basically how fast you accelerate to your maximum speed. Your maximum speed while boosting, the boost speed minimum, boost speed maximum. These are for if you want to do like accelerated boosting or if you want to do some mock state. Forces boost, boost efficiency, stuff like that. Boost efficiency percent. You don't want to change the efficiency, but you do want to change the efficiency percent if you would like how easily you obtain boost efficiency, I think. So if you want to change any of the properties of the individual abilities, that's where you would do it. You would go to here. Move speed speed moveset data is on. That's the thing that changes like whether or not an ability is active. So earlier I mentioned an ability enabled versus an ability active. That's what these here are. So, you know, if you wanted to activate an ability later on through like an ability or like an item or something like that, that's how you would do it. What's the biggest part of this update? Whisper. Whisper will be the biggest part of this update, without a doubt. The fact that a lot of the blueprints have been cleaned up is another big aspect. The project overall and all of its assets are a lot cleaner. That's another big aspect. Is Silver done? Not quite. We're still considering like adding one more ability to Silver, but for the most part, all that's really left with Silver is we got to fix his skeleton up. His mesh is still a little jank, but most of it's just patching. Silver is mostly done. He's not completely done, but he's mostly done. He's more done than Whisper is. And Whisper isn't incomplete. Whisper is just... Whisper is about to enter into the debug state, meaning we are going to be focusing on debugging issues and problems with Whisper. She's very close to the debug state. We are simply just waiting on animation work to be done for Whisper. And it's almost done. I have seen a lot of the animations Whisper has. We haven't implemented into the framework yet, but we will be doing that here soon. What voice did you do for Whisper? We'll talk about that later. I don't want to go into too much detail about what we have for Whisper. I like to keep a lot of it a surprise. We are still going to be looking for another voice actress for her, though. Let's see if we can find someone who is Scottish. But we have not had any luck with that yet. What was I saying?
Big chunk.
Big chungus. Whisper is her animations are getting nearly done. A lot of her basic animations are done. Things, you know, like not her running, but things like interacting with objects or crawling or rolling or like basic interaction animations are done with Whisper. We're just waiting on a lot of the animations that are custom to Whisper for her abilities and stuff like that. Although I think one of them's done. I'm not sure.
Show up.
So yeah. Alright, does anyone have any who's modeling Whisper? Reese modeled Whisper.
Yes. Quite some time ago.
Can I show anything of Whisper? No. We want to keep Whisper a secret. No.
Yes.
We will have a big reveal trailer involving Whisper. Like, there will be a reveal trailer that will discuss, or it'll showcase everything, and then I might even do a video discussing everything Whisper can do. We just gotta wait for her animations to be done first. Once she's finished animated, then we can start recording footage. Sage 2023? Maybe, who knows. I'm not too interested in Sage. I'm not gonna lie. Maybe we'll try and get 1.0 out for Sage, like 1.0 for Sage or something like that. A Big the Cat reveal. Oh yeah, we're gonna do a Big the Cat reveal. Big's coming to the engine, obviously, because, like, you know, you can't have a Sonic framework without Big the Cat. Just saying. Damn. Not here. But, will there be fishing? I was joking. That's pretty good. So, does anyone have any tutorial-related questions? We've gone over buttons and switch events and how they function, and we've also gone over how to change properties inside of a character. I guess real quick to like cap off that comment about the changing properties inside a character. If you need to change a property inside of a character, you gotta like, it's generally a pretty easy process. You have to figure out what it is you want to change. Do you want to change an ability? All right, well, whose ability is it? Is it an ability exclusive to the speed character? If it is, then go to the speed parent. If it's not, then go to the master character or go to the parent of the proper character. Like if it's a flight, if you want to change a property of the flight characters, don't go to the master character, go to the flight parent. If you want to change a property of a speed character, don't go to the power parent, go to the speed parent. And then from there, what you can do is you can just simply go into the variable list and type in what it is you're looking for. Generally, if it's an ability, you could go to one of these structures. And these structures usually have all the information you need because that's what they're based off of. Like the ability is based off of the variables inside of these structures. But sometimes it's not always the case. Sometimes you'll still have to look it up and simply just confirm that what you're looking for is what you want, and then you can move on to do what you need to with them. You can change the properties of the stuff. There's just always go to Big when on stream. Well, Big the cat demands attention, so I can't blame you. I mean, Big the cat is the best character of all time, so hearing about all that cleanup work already done and planned is very nice. Yep, not all the cleanup is done. However, 1.0 will be a lot more cleaned up. I would say we have probably gotten about 60-70% of the entire project cleaned up in terms of its code. But not all of it. How can I change Sonic's drift animation? When you go to the speed parent, on the shoulder graph, there's a dodge code, quick step, drift. Figure out where it plays the animation. Well, the animation should probably be an instance editable variable for the individual children. And hold on, is that deactivating? Okay, yeah, no. Where is it? Actually, it might be in the animation blueprint. You may have to check the animation blueprint. I don't think it's a variable. Let's see here. Okay, drift and speed, that is a variable, but I don't think that's the one you're going to want to change. I think you have to change it to the animation blueprints. Could be wrong. Let's see. It is not. I'm not sure where the drift animation is at. I'll have to ask Emmanuel. He didn't put it in here, did he? No, he did not. Okay. Is it in here? It is. Okay, here it is. I'm not sure why he put it in here. No? No, that's stopping drift. God damn it, Emmanuel. Where did you put this shit? I'm not sure. I'll have to look into that one. It's not in the ABP. That's a pivot drift. All right. All right, well, yeah. I'll have to get back to you on that one. Did anyone else have any other tutorial related questions? Am I still working my RPG? Yep. I do, I haven't really mentioned this. I try not to mention my personal stuff while on dev streams, but, I do have my own personal server now, outside of Infinity Plus. You can find a link to it. Just scrolling down to my Twitch page here, you'll be able to see my personal Discord versus the iPlus Discord. I do post all of my personal project work in there. Not super often, because I have to split my time between this and Infinity Plus, as well as streaming and like doing other content, but will you do devlogs for them? Probably not. Not for a while if I do. If I do end up doing devlogs for my other projects, it will not be for a while. Maybe updates. I might do like updates on occasion. But yeah. If you want to be updated for my personal streams, I do post my personal stream links on the iPlus Discord, but I just post them in self-advertisement like everyone else does. But if you want to be notified when I go live outside of iPlus dev streams, I do have roles there that get pinged. So, how can I make a P06 camera transition when I turn supersonic? What?
When you turn super in Project 06, it does like a... It switches to like a front view of the character.
Oh.
Like looks at Sonic's face.
You mean that thing that's really distracting and annoying? You'd have to do that in the super code. And the main character, you can see super mode down here. Your super transformation. You'll have to put all this stuff into here somewhere. I'm not going to walk you through how to do all of that, because I don't know how to do it exactly how you want, so I wouldn't know how to help with that. But you have to go in here, and the other thing you would have to do is, you can either do it here, or you can do it here, or something, like outside after this function or whatever. But you're definitely just going to want to do is get cam BP. And then you're going to want to use that. You're not going to want to affect the actual camera. You're going to want to do this camera here. Whatever you end up doing, because we use an external camera. I'm just adding another camera. You can do that as well. Another method of doing it is oh my god, compile. What you could do is you could add an additional camera component, position it in front of the character, and simply swap viewports to it. Like swap to its view and then swap back after a set time whenever you transform. That's another method of doing it, but you're like, go here. I didn't want to do that. Shit. How do I bring back the component list?
It's in the window tab.
Components, here we go. And you can just like add a component and go like camera. Like add camera. Move the camera forward, like rotate it, or get whatever angle you want out of it. And like this is called camera 1, and then you could just change viewports or something like that. I don't know. There's a bunch of different methods to do it, but if you want to know where to do it, it would be here. This is where you would do it on the super code. Call that super cam, switch it. Yeah, you could do that. Or you could also, instead of having a camera component, you could create an arrow component and simply move the currently existing camera to the arrow's position temporarily and move it back. Are there any other tutorial related questions, like how to do something that isn't like completely set up something new? I can't show you how to set up something new because I don't know what all you want. I don't know what all it should do. I don't know what all you want your new functionality to be able to do. Like, how do you move Sonic forward? I assume you just mean move. Like, are you just talking about moving? Because if you are, it's all done in the movement code. Like, we have an entire graph here set for movement. I said ask anything related to stuff that, like, I could show you how to change and alter inside of the characters, not like set up something entirely new. How do you change the UI? You have to go into the widgets. That is not a question for me. I'm not very good with UI stuff. It's all in the widgets here. You can see all the different components. Like, there's a item icon here. It changes depending on what icon it is. If you want to create a new one, if you want to create a new widget, I don't know. Does a character switching debug work? It does, but there are issues with it. References and things don't get properly updated. So I can like hit this here, and I can swap to tails. But certain functionalities do not work. Like I don't think I'd be able to, I might be able to, yeah, I can walk into that. Not everything is going to work because it's not going to have proper references to things. Like if I were to walk into like the water volume and swap characters, it wouldn't work because it would not properly update characters. If I swap back to Shadow, it probably wouldn't work properly. Or it would, who knows. But if I exited, you're going to see a bunch of errors. Mostly with the enemy AI. Because I guess the enemy AI needs to reference Shadow for some reason. I don't know. We do have the character swapper here, which I need to eventually get around to fixing. Like, if you don't want to use the debug, we have a character swapper here that can swap, you know, the different, or like swap you to a different character and stuff like that. How do you make Sonic dab or floss? Well, what you do is you go outside and then jump into a dumpster. That's how you do that. Does it give you a creepy zoom in of Tails' face? No. Not at the moment. That is a functionality you want to add, though. The camera for this character swapper is not correct. The camera doesn't get set up properly. Like you can see, it's focused a lot lower on the character for some reason. I'm not sure why though. Then we gotta update the models here, because if I had to guess, it'll probably swap to. If I use Knuckles, yeah, it's Knuckles without a hat. We gotta change this so that way it includes all of the assets on the character as well. So if I were to go into here, spin cycle, no. I'm not sure what's going on with this camera thing, but it's kind of weird. Having the character exactly center the screen is very off-putting. Huh? What is huh?
Just with what you said. I was just went, Anything wrong with that?
Maybe.
Oh.
Also, no, it will not properly work if you swap it to like these characters. This here is like all of these characters are just like temporary characters, like they're just placeholders. If if I told it to swap to Rouge, it's not actually going to work. If anything, it might actually crash. I don't know. Because I don't think we have a Rouge blueprint. Oh. I forgot you had animations for Rouge.
I did like 2 for a test. Years ago now.
Yeah, no. There are some basic actors that exist for these characters, but not all. Some characters do have blueprints, but Rouge over here flying. Like, if I got a team... that's enemies. I need to go characters. Team Dark. I open up Rouge. Like, Rouge has a blueprint, but it doesn't really have any assets in it, and not everything inside of it is set up properly. Omega also has a blueprint. Go to Team Chaotix. SBO has a blueprint, and I think... oh, Charmy and Vector also have one. Interesting.
Every character has one.
Really?
Yeah. I did that like a year or 2 ago as well.
Oh, Tails Doll doesn't.
No, those ones don't. Just all the main character ones.
You know, main characters like Metal Knuckles.
Exactly. Game Apologist taught us that
And
Metal
Marine.
Knuckles could be everywhere.
Marine or not. Marine's not a main character.
I didn't make a Marine. There's a folder, but there's nothing in it.
Yeah. A lot of characters do have blueprints, but they're not like completely set up. They don't have proper like animation blueprints, and they don't have proper assets and stuff like that. So there's this spot that you can go to like begin work if you want to add a character. Like if you wanted to add Vector, there's a Vector blueprint. You can begin work in there. But not all of the characters that you see in the folders here have a blueprint. However, I'm pretty sure. Yep, Professor Pickle has a blueprint, obviously.
Of course it does.
Because why wouldn't he? He's Professor Pickle. You can't have a nose like this and not have your own blueprint. I showed you my cucumber sandwich. Please respond.
Please respond, Sonic.
That is a nose right there. It's a plate
He's always
of
knowing
cucumber
everyone's
sandwich.
business.
We can discuss it over a plate of cucumber sandwiches.
Oh. Dylan.
That is the one thing that I will like love Archie for. I'm not a huge Archie person, but that's the one thing I will like gladly take from Archie is the fact that they made Professor Pickle's first name Dylan. Dylan Pickle. Mega Mind close up mean no cucumbers.
No cucumbers.
Dan Green. No cucumbers. Oh my god, that's so weird. Oh my god, that's weird.
What?
Do not do a top-down view of Professor Pickle. It's so weird.
You just see his nose.
Yeah.
Sticking out.
Kinda.
Looking at.
I wonder.
Maybe.
Aha! Making mine close up. Yes! It is he!
What did you do? Oh, wait a minute. Ah, yes.
He's playing as the ultimate character.
The best character. Look at that dust trail behind him.
So many fucking errors. Apparently he's trying to use Sonic's animation blueprint.
Yeah. I think
His
Sonic
ocean
is still there.
His Ocean Palace Silver Seagate, yeah, Seagate is still kind of broken. We've not fixed it, and I don't know if we will. Not tutorial yet, but I use anime. Knuckles and Emmanuel gave it to me. Knuckles going a loop at the time. It was a little hard to animate properly. The bones were wonder at the same time. I don't know if you want me to animate Whisper for an action test. I likely do. So we already have someone animating Whisper. In fact, it is the J Ninja who is in chat right now.
Is he though?
Is the J Ninja.
The J Ninja. What about that other J Ninja?
The one and only.
I am the one and only.
I am the Eggman.
I am tired.
I am all of me. Walk into my mystery. Step inside and hold on for dear life.
Nah, I'm good, mate.
Oh. Cool.
Your backstory's kind of convoluted. I don't want to get messed up with that.
Can you
Found a trail
see
of
all of me?
torches. No,
Walk into
you are behind a computer screen.
my mystery. Step inside and hold on for dear life. You mean the
Right.
Chaos Emeralds?
The Chaos Emeralds.
The Chouse Emeralds.
Okay, there's a dirt path here. Where the hell am I?
Is the Wiz Sonic voice line still there? I don't know. Did we get rid of those?
I never did.
That is a good question.
That's a good question.
That's a good question. Oh, they are still here.
Ha!
We must retrieve all the energy immediately,
Yeah!
Mega Man.
All right, a checkpoint. Ha! Ow!
That mic quality is not the best. I mean, it's my mic. My mic quality is not ideal for voice acting. I'd like to get one that is, but that is expensive.
Where am I?
What are you doing?
Minecraft.
Mince raft?
I'm lost in the Nether. Absolutely lost.
Did you
in
follow
the
my
vault.
torch trail down below?
No, I found a big dirt path in the sky. I followed it back. And
Oh, yeah, no, that's... Oh. Oh, no. I might have to retrieve you.
Operation Retrieve the British Idiot.
Alright, any last call for questions? Anyone else got any?
Before Fizz has to come and save me.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go bail out the British once again.
Oh, okay.
Let's leave it to the Americans. Online gameplay? No. We're not planning on any online gameplay. That is something that we would have had to have started working on long ago. Just a long time ago.
Use Hamachi. There you go.
Yeah, use Hamachi. That's how you do that.
We did it one time before. Kind of fun.
Maybe in the next update we'll still consider multiplayer depending on how things go. Multiplayer's kind of just been a thing that we've not really focused on at all. Maybe we can get it. Who knows? We'll have to see. But yeah. Any other questions before we skedaddle? Skedoodle.
What's 9 plus 10?
21.
Stupid. Oh, shit.
It'd probably be a pain to add. Yes, it would be a pain to add online multiplayer. Regular local multiplayer is still going to be a pain to add, but it's a lot more manageable. But we don't know yet if we're actually going to do that. We will see, though. One more thing. Yes, what is it?
Oh, yeah.
One more thing.
You're alright, Polly.
Polykins.
They've been very stressed today.
I wonder why.
Probably has nothing to do with the fact that we're missing a kitchen downstairs now.
No. Really? Are you sure?
Goated in the sauce.
I'm pretty sure cats love it when there's a bunch of really, really loud noises and banging and clanking and a bunch of strangers in their home of abode. And,
Yeah.
you know, the things that they rub their scent on are now gone and changed.
Yep.
Cats love that, you know.
Oh yeah. Polly's all for that. Ain't you, Polly? I've never seen you play with that before, Polly.
Alright, does that loop work for the rails? Yes, it does. It's a little jank, but it works. How can I add a BP dynamic camera while Sonic is looping on the loop? I tried that, but he's dozing go in a full loop. What? This here is a camera, dynamic camera that has a loop. All it does is we have it set to camera tracking, disables input is off, lock cam on character is off, speed shift is off. Must be grounded we also have is on, that way if you like fall off the shuttle loop it doesn't, like, you know, try to do weird things. Must be airborne is also off. We have a blend in time, blend out time.
If I had to guess, it might be over there.
So make sure the how about I don't play as Professor Pickle.
If you gotta play as Professor Pickle. Why would you say no to that magnificent man?
Dylan.
Absolute gentleman.
Yeah, like that. If you want, you could also turn speed shift on. You gotta have a certain setting on in the shuttle loop mesh turned on to not require the.
I found the way out.
You found a way out. You found the way.
The British saved themselves.
You can turn on. Does that use a spline? No. This one does not use a spline. We do have a camera spline though. You could turn on use speed shift, if you wanted to. This one here is a spline. Like as I move left and right, the camera tries to get as close as possible to me, but it's restricted along the spline path. The shadows stay on the loop? What do you mean? Like, I'm just holding forward. Whenever I go across this shuttle loop, I'm just holding forward. That's it. I'm not, like, pressing any of the buttons. Just hold forward, you know, like so.
And pray.
Yeah. I can jump off of this if I want. And in doing so, I would break off the shuttle loop and the camera would also change. Can you run off of the loop? You could. There's like little guards on the side, make it a little difficult. But the shuttle loop is set up so that it makes it harder to push away from the center. Like we have a system in place for shuttle loops that if you have a setting set in the mesh, it depending on the types of settings you set, it will try to pull you to the center of the shuttle loop, so that way you don't veer off to the left or right. I'll have to ask Emmanuel how he set it up, though.
Better call Emmanuel.
But, yeah. This one isn't too strong, as obviously you can see, like, I'm going to enter from the center, but by the time I exit, I'll probably be closer to one of the sides. Fuck, the frame rate stuttered. I'm going to enter, and by the time I exit, I'm going to be, like, closer to the side here. It didn't let me, like, it didn't completely let me fall off of it. because the settings, like, I got close to the side and it pushed me towards the center. There is a stronger setting that basically tries to keep you as close to the center as possible. But I think there's like 3 different settings. There's like a weak setting, there's a strong setting, and a medium setting. The weak setting will essentially, it'll try and push you if you don't have too much force like against it, and you can get pretty close to the sides of the shuttle loop. But you can see right there, like I got really close to the side, and even though I didn't hold any directions, I kept holding forward. By the time I got back down, I was basically in the center of the shuttle loop again, because it started to push me back to the center of the shuttle loop. But you can see it like push me back. But that's because this isn't one of the stronger settings. I think it's one of the weaker ones. But there is a stronger setting that will like forcibly try to push you. If you boost up it, I mean, it'll still push me. It'll be harder, but it'll still push me to the center. It'll work. This works. We've had this in the engine for a very, very long time. This isn't a new feature. So, it works. In Total Combat, yeah, it was in the 3 Knuckles update too. We patched it up a little bit in the Colorful Combat update, but it was in the 3 Knuckles update. Just getting the setting to function is the main issue. It's not very straightforward. I'll have to talk to Emmanuel on how to like maybe make it easier. I don't know, but because it involves like going into the mesh, like the instance of the mesh or something like that, and then changing a tag in the mesh or something like that. It's basically a correction system is what it is. Is whenever you overlap with the mesh, you can't see it. There is a debug system for it, but I don't know how to turn it on. Basically, it draws a line from your character to the 2 sides of the mesh, and depending on how close to the side of the mesh you get, it'll slowly push you back to the center. So it draws lines to the corners of the mesh. Yeah. It is also dependent on your speed, I think. Like if you're going too slow, it won't activate. I think I'll have to ask Manuel. But I hope that explains your initial question about the dynamic camera blueprint. Like none of the settings inside of this are different. Like I selected the only thing that is different is like exit camera with to initial rotation and must be grounded. Those are the 2 settings that are changed. All the other settings here are default. A sharp turn. Oh, you're talking about the pivot. That is not an ability anymore. I think we have gotten rid of that. We have a pivot drift though, which is like a successor to it. So if I head out here towards the open road, if you drift and then press... Oh wait, no, is that a Sonic exclusive ability? It probably shouldn't if it is. Oh, no, you can press that button. You can press the roll button while drifting to stop where you're going, and then change your direction, and then launch yourself. It's called the pivot drift. It does require a boost to activate. Like, the longer you have it held down, the more boost you'll use. So yeah. I suggest using a spin dash animation for it. Yeah, we could probably do that. Although we don't have a spin dash animation. We could make one though. Like I've had an idea for a spin dash animation in mind. Shadow, you're looking at the floor. He's kind of looking forward. All right. Anyone else have any questions? Bonk. Bonk. Like, the role that's in the jump and stuff. Oh, you're talking about, like, the... like, little jump ball actor? Alright, well, the jump actor, we gotta touch this jump actor up. For some reason, there's something about the jump actor that's very inefficient. We don't know what it is, but if you jump, and the jump actor is on screen for too long, the engine tanks, and we're not sure why. Like, the longer you jump, and it's not the fact that you're in the air that's the problem. Like, if you fall off of something, like... It's running the mid-air ticks information. Like, if you fall off of something, if you just get launched into the air, like, it's not being in the air that's the problem. It's definitely the jump ball actor. So we got to figure out what's going on with it and try and fix it up. Alrighty, well, if no one else has any other questions, we're probably going to call it good here. No.
Having fun, huh?
I am.
Have that.
Let's see. Alright, see you next time. Doesn't seem like anyone else has any other questions, so we're gonna skedaddle. Our next dev stream will be the 11th of next month. Although we might consider changing the date. We might make it Saturdays or Sundays or something, because Emmanuel's not able to make them when they're on Mondays. So we might actually end up changing the date of the dev streams, which we were considering doing a little while ago anyway, so it's not that big of a deal. But yeah, we will be seeing everybody next time, and I hope you all have a great rest of your day, and we will see you later.
Bye-bye.